No question? Okay. All right. So what we're gonna do today, we're gonna continue on that chapter 8. What we left out, we talk about what factor we consider in highways when we do the calculation, and what factors do we consider in intersection analysis, or we call it at-grade intersections. And I went over the geometric and roadway factors and traffic factors. Now, what we like to do is we're gonna talk about signalization or control factors. On signalization and control factors, we're going to look at the cycle length, we're going to look at the green time, we're going to look at the actuated versus pre-time operation, we're going to look at the availability of pedestrian push button, and we are looking at the minimum pedestrian green time, and we are looking at phase plan. Okay, those are the things that we need to look at we call signalization and control factors. What is the cycle length? The cycle length is the total number of seconds of the green time, yellow time, and red time at the intersection. For instance, if I have an intersection, and then if this is a north-south bound and the other leg is east-west. If you are looking at only two-phase signals, let's say I give green time of 30 seconds to the north-south, and then I have 4 seconds of yellow, and then I will have 26 seconds of red. So 30-second green time, 4-second yellow time, 26-second red. This is considered as one cycle. So in this case, one cycle here is 60 seconds. That's what we call cycle length. So on smaller intersections, you might have 50-second or 60-second cycle. But when you have a very large intersection, you might have even up to about 180 seconds cycle time, because you will have so many phases. Here we talk about 2-phase, because we are saying that on that intersection, if this is the northbound, if it's the green time to go, north and south move, and then when those stops, then east and west goes. So we call that 2-phase. And then we have 3-phase, 4-phase, 5-phase, 6-phase, goes all the way to 8-phase. And what are those phases? For instance, you see that while these are going, maybe there is a phase that they make a left turn. So that's another signal for making a left turn. So that makes it another phase. So north-south goes, and then those stops, and then the left turn movement happen. So another phase added to it. And you might have a phase for the right movement, right turn movement. That might be another one. So there are different phases. But this diagram that I have here is for 2-phase only. Now, if north-south is 30 seconds, green time, and yellow time is 4 seconds, therefore this should be the red time. So red time here is 34 seconds, because while is the green time in north-south and yellow time, the car should not move on the east-west. And then after the red time, you have a green time, and then you have a yellow time. So the yellow time will be 4 seconds, so that will be 38, and that will be 22 seconds of green. Okay, so the whole thing is 60 seconds. So we need to know about what is the cycle length. We need to know about number of phases, as I just talked about here. We need to know how many second green time you have for cars moving. And then we need to know about what is actuated or pre-time operation. Pre-time operation is that we set, each of those signals at the intersection has a controller. If you pay attention, there is a gray box on the intersections. And the controller is there in that box that usually city engineer has a key to it. They can open it. They can program it, change the program, whatever they want to do. So there are pre-time. That means you set the time. It doesn't matter how many cars go through the intersection. So always going to be 30 seconds, 4 seconds, 26 seconds on the north-south, and east-west will be 34, 22, and 4. So that's the pre-time. It doesn't change. If there is one car going or there's 100 cars going, the same cycle. So that's what we call pre-timed. But actuated means that as the car approaches the intersection, the signal changes. So you probably have seen on the intersection that there are pavement line around the pavement that seems like they take it out and put them back. Under that, there's a magnetic loops. And those are sensors. So when you're approaching the intersection and you hit that sensors, it let the signal or controller knows that you are there. So the control change the signal timing and give you green time to go, especially on major roads. So usually when we have a major road and then we have a minor roads. So, and there is a signal here. So what we do, usually we give a green time to the major roads. So as long as there is no car on the minor road, which is this is the minor road, the green time stays green all the time. It doesn't change to red. But what happens if the car approach on the minor, there is a sensor there that hit the sensor, and the sensor send a message to the controller that there is a car over here waiting. And at that time, the signal changes and give you green time to go. If you don't hit that sensor, you can stay there forever. It never changed the signal. So when you are on the minor roads, always make sure you hit that sensors. Otherwise, you cannot go through that signal. And you might think that the signal is not working. No, it's working. But the sensor didn't sense you. And even in sometimes that you have a roadway and we have a aisle for left turn movement, usually we have a sensor here that if you don't hit this sensor, it doesn't give you a green arrow to go through that intersection. And you might stay there forever. So make sure that you hit the sensors on those aisles for going through. So these are what we call actuated. So these are actuated because the signal gets to be actuated by the sensors. Any question? Okay, and then we have availability. If we have availability of pedestrian push button, that changes cycles because we have to allow for pedestrian to cross. So we might have a longer cycle. So that influences that. And then minimum pedestrian green time. Again, that depends on how wide the intersection is. So what we have to do is we have to calculate on the average, how long does it take for average person to cross the intersection? So we have to allow time, enough time for him to cross or she to cross. So that's what we call minimum pedestrian green time. So we need this information on the signalization and controls. Any question on that? All right. Now, what would be the ideal condition for intersection? So the ideal condition for uninterrupted flow what is the uninterrupted flow we talked about last time? You are not getting interrupted. What facility is uninterrupted flow? It's freeways. Because on the freeway, you are not interrupted by signal signs or anything. So that's uninterrupted flow. So what would be the ideal condition? Well, the ideal condition is that you have 3.6 meter or 12 feet lane width. Okay. So you gotta have at least 12 feet lane width. Lane width is, this is the lane width. You gotta have 12 feet. Now you can have 12, 14, 13, 15. whatever you want. As long as you have 12 or more, that's under ideal condition. If you have less than that, then we have to have a correction factor for it. The second one is 1.8 meter or 6 feet. And that's the clearance between the edge of the lane and nearest obstructions. Edge of a travel lane and the nearest obstructions. So it means what? Means if you have a shoulder here, okay, you gotta have at least 6 feet or more. If you don't have 6 feet and you have less than that, then we have to correct that. That's not ideal condition. The third condition is that you should have 120 kilometers per hour, or around approximately 70 miles per hour design speed. Okay, for multi-lane highways okay, and (100 kilometers per hour, or approximately 60 miles per hour design speed for 2-lane highways. Okay, that's the third condition. You should have at least 70 miles per hour design speed for multi-lane highways and at least 60 miles per hour design speed for the 2-lane highways. And for all passenger cars. So you should have all passenger cars in the traffic stream. So that means no truck and no buses, no RVs. So if you have this situation, and we call that ideal condition. Obviously, we don't have ideal condition most of the places. We might have 11-foot lane. We might have no shoulder. Your design speed might be lower. Or always we have some trucks and buses in the traffic. So if we have those different from this, then we have to have an adjustment factor to adjust our capacity. Any question on that? All right. What would be the ideal condition for signal light intersection? signalized intersection. Again, you got to have a 3.6 meter or 12 feet lane width. So when you have an intersection, each of these lanes got to be 12 feet or more. You got to have a level train or level grades. No grades, level. You should have no curb parking. On the intersection approach. So there should not be any parking here. No parking. 4, we should have all passenger cars in the traffic stream. Okay, that means no truck, no buses. There should be no turning movement. So no left turn, no right turn, nothing. And location in a non-central business district. Okay, location in non-central business district. And 7, we should have green signal available at all times. Okay, so only green time, no yellow, no red. So that gives you ideal signalization condition. Now, obviously, some of these we don't have. At the intersection, definitely you make it right turn, left turn. But it says no turning movements. So if you have a left turn, right turn, you have to adjust it. You have to multiply the capacity by a factor to bring it down. Obviously, we'll have trucks and buses in the traffic. Therefore, you have to have correction factor for that. If your intersection is at some type of a grades, like 2%, 3%, or 1%, you gotta adjust that. If your lane width is 12 feet, not 12 feet, 10 feet, 11 feet, 9 feet, then we have to do that. On 7, green signal available at all times. So at the intersection, that's not possible. We don't have green time at all times. We have yellow time and red time. So if you have that, then you have to adjust that also. So yes, that's what it is. Green signal available at all time. So we usually have red time, yellow time. So if that would be the case, we have to multiply the capacity by a factor, so there will be less car going through that intersection because of the yellow time and red time. And it should be in non-central location. So if you have in the central business district, which is downtown, your capacity will be less. So this is the ideal condition. Based on that ideal condition, you can go and find what is the capacity, and then whatever that is different than this, we do the adjustment. Any question? All right. Now, we will like to do a problem analysis for two-lane roadway. So we're gonna do service. That's the example that's in page, example, page 243. Okay, so we do service flow analysis for a two-lane roadway. Okay, that's what we want to do, two-lane roadway. Now, again, what we need to know is that what would be the ideal condition of no two-lane roadway? Two-lane roadways. Okay, first one, it says that the design speed greater than or equal to 100 kilometers per hour or 60 miles per hour. So we got to have a design speed greater than or equal to 100 kilometers per hour or about 60 miles per hour. Approximately. The second condition is that your lane width should be greater than or equal to 3.6 meters or approximately 12 feet. The third one, clear shoulders wider than or equal to 1.8 meters or about 6 feet. The fourth condition is that there should be no passing zones. You know, when you are driving on the two-way highway, In some sections, say no passing, because you don't see the other side very well. So they say no passing. But under ideal condition, we say there should be no passing zone on the highway. And that means you can always pass if you want to. The 5 is all passenger cars in the passenger stream. No truck, no buses. 6, a 50-50 directional split. 50-50 directional split of traffic. That means 50% goes in one direction, 50% goes in the other direction all the time. 7, there is no impediment. No impediment to through traffic due to traffic control or turning vehicles. And 8, level train. All right, and so these are the 8 conditions that if you have a roadway, 2-lane roadway, this is apply only to 2-lane roadway. If you have a 2-lane roadway, okay, no impedance to through traffic due to the traffic control or turning vehicle. And the 8 is level train. Again, these are on page 243. Okay, you can read your book. Now, when we have these conditions, that's the ideal condition. So when you have an ideal condition, we assume that the capacity is going to be 2,800. Vehicle per hour in both directions. So you have a capacity of 2,800 passenger cars per hour in both directions. And these are passenger cars, no truck, no buses, as I said in the ideal condition. Now, obviously, a lot of them we might not have. For instance, you might have lane width not equal to 12 feet, could be 11 feet. You have some area where it said no passing zones. Maybe you don't have a 50-50 directional split. Maybe it's not level train. So any of those that changes, this capacity will go down. So what we want to do, we want to figure it out how we can calculate the capacity then, or we call service flow. The difference between capacity and service flow is this. The service flow is the volume at given level of service. For instance, if I say, what is the flow, what is the volume at level of service B? When I say that, that's the service flow at level of service B. If I say, what's the volume at level of service C? That's the service flow at level of service C. So the difference between volume and service flow is at the given level of service. But volume, you just go and count the number of cars passing a point. And we don't care about the level of service. We just measure the volume. But if I say, what is the volume at given level of service, which is a B or a C or a D, then that turns into a service flow. Okay, now let's look at an example, how we can calculate that. So there's an example given to you on that page 243. They say that compute the service flow rate at level of service B for a 2-lane highway. In a rolling train. Two-lane roadway on a rolling train. Basically what we have 3 levels. We have a level train, which is level. Usually 0 to 1% grade. We call level train. If you go higher than that and have a higher grade, like 2%, 3%, we call rolling train. And if you go higher than that, we call it mountainous train. So there are 3 levels of train: level train, rolling train, and mountainous train. In this problem, they said the highway is the rolling train. Could be like 2 or 3% grades on it. With 11 feet lanes. So this is the 11-foot lanes. And shoulder width of 4 feet. Okay, this is a shoulder width, 4 feet. Now the road has 20% no passing zones. And the directional distribution split is 60-40. So no 20% no passing zone, 60-40 directional split. There are 10% truck, 5% recreational vehicles, RV, and 2% buses. Okay, so if we have all this information, we want to know what is the service flow. How do we calculate it? As you are seeing here, pretty much all of these are against the ideal condition. So ideal condition, we said is 2,800, but that was based on 12 feet lane, not 11 feet. 6 feet shoulder, not 4 feet shoulder. No passing zone. Here it has 20% no passing zone. Directional split on the ideal condition was 50-50. Here is 60-40. There shouldn't be any truck. Here is 10% truck. No RV. Here we have 5% RV. There shouldn't be any buses, 2% buses. So because all of these are different than ideal condition, so the service flow, which was 2,800, is going to change. It's going to be lower. Well, how much would that be? Well, the equation of the service flow for any level of service I is equal to 2,800 times V over C, okay, times F sub D times F sub W times F sub HV. So this is the equation that we have to pay attention to. So if all of these, V over C, FD, FW, FHV, they're all equal to 1, you have an ideal condition, so it will be 2,800. But we don't have that case. And we want to find the level of service for B. 2,800 will be level of service E. That's the capacity. Does everyone follow me?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. Now, what do we need to do? We need to know what is the V over C. We need to know what's the FD. We need to know F sub W. We need the F sub HV. So what's the V over C? V over C is their volume over capacity. Volume over capacity. Capacity is the maximum number of cars that can go through a freeway. And volume is the number of cars that's going. So you might have a capacity of 1,000, but only like 100 is going right now. So your V over C will be 100 over 1,000. So that will be 0.1. Your F sub D is your directional split. So if the directional split is 50-50, which we had it under ideal condition, your f sub d will be equal to 1. But since it is 60-40, that means 60% going, people going one direction, 40% coming the other direction, that f sub d is going to change. So it's not going to be equal to 1. It's going to be less than 1. Your f sub w is the factor for your lane width and the shoulders. So that's the correction factor for lane width and the shoulders. If you remember, if the lane width was 12 feet or more and shoulder was 6 feet or more, the f sub w is equal to 1 because it would be ideal condition. But that's not the case here. Your lane width is 11 feet and you have a 4 feet shoulder, which is less than 6 feet. So your f sub w is going to be less than 1 when we figure it out. And f sub hv refer to correction factor for heavy vehicles. What are the heavy vehicles? Truck, RVs, and buses. So we have to calculate that and find out what would be the f sub hv. And again, that's going to be less than 1. So your 2800, when you multiply by all these numbers which are less than 1, is going to be less, not 2800. All right, so that's what we have to do. For finding these factors, we have to go to each table and finding out what would that be. Okay, any question on this?
What does SF stand for?
Pardon?
SF, the beginning of the equation.
2800 times V over C. That's the service flow.
Service flow, okay.
Yeah, SF. I is giving you the level of service in general, but here we are talking about level of service B. Okay. Again, this is on that same page, which is page 243. You can read it. You can have all the information on it. All right. So I'm going to go and show you where we get the V over C, F sub D, F sub W, F sub HV, and then we multiply by 2800. Okay. Are you guys done with this page? Okay. Now let's do that. I'm going to go over. Let's see. I should have a picture of these tables.